So you don't want to be just drinking whiskey straight anymore. So let's talk about how to make the perfect old-fashioned and what you need to do to make your perfect old-fashioned. Because let's be honest, there's no such thing as the perfect old-fashioned as a recipe. Let's get into it. The old-fashioned is honestly such an iconic cocktail. So iconic that people are making ready-to-drink versions of it, and they're really freaking good. However, you can make your own, and I can guarantee if you actually think about it, put some thought into it, put some effort into it, it's gonna be better than one of these. No knock to this. This is really good. I like this a lot. Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey and Wine, where we try to make the world of whiskey and wine more approachable for more people. My name's Sam. Let's just dive right into this. In classic whiskey and wine fashion, you know I have to do a little bit of history before we dive in. So if you want to skip like 2 minutes ahead or wherever the marker is, but it's not gonna be that long. Just bear with me. So the old-fashioned really came about when this cocktail renaissance was happening, when people were coming out of Prohibition, all this stuff. Basically, everyone was like, hey, I want a cocktail made in the old-fashioned way, or I want an old-fashioned cocktail. Now what they meant is a kind of a template that they wanted their bartender to follow. And this template is what people were doing to try to make whiskey or just any spirit taste good. And you had your spirit, you'd add a sweetener to it, you'd add a bitters to it, and then you'd also add water to basically proof it down. Nowadays, we've kind of switched out that water and just put ice in there and called it a good day, which I'm not that mad about. So with the old-fashioned being a template of just spirit, bitters, sweetener, water, or ice, there's a lot of room to play. You could make a gin old-fashioned, you can make a rye old-fashioned, make a scotch old-fashioned, you could make a tequila old-fashioned, make a mezcal old-fashioned, which is really freaking good, by the way. Really am a big fan of those. But you can play with it. You can sub out different bitters. You don't have to use Angostura aromatic bitters. You don't have to use simple syrup. You can use any type of sweetener. You can use any type of bitters. You can use any type of spirit. So knowing that, let's kind of talk about what you can do to make the perfect cocktail for you. First thing you're going to want to do is pick your base spirit. Now, again, most people are probably going to be like, all right, I just want bourbon. Well, what type of bourbon do you want? Do you want a high rye bourbon? Do you want a wheated bourbon? Do you want a bourbon that's finished in something? Do you want a really high corn content bourbon? Do you want one that's double oaked? Do you want one that's spicy, that's sweet, that's savory? What do you want? Think about that. If you want your old-fashioned to have more of a sweet note to it or more of a savory note, try to pick a whiskey that is going to start to give you those flavors. A lot of the flavor is obviously going to come from the spirit. I guess I shouldn't be saying whiskey specifically, but a lot of those flavors are going to come from the spirit. So pick whatever spirit that is going to give you those flavors that you want. And then you're going to have to make sure that your bitters and sweetener obviously is going to go with that as well. For me, as we go through this, I'm going to be talking about making my winter old-fashioned. It is one of my favorite things. It's absolutely delicious. I really like it. The bottle's actually right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab this guy so I can use it while I tell you about this. So this would be the whiskey that I would choose for a winter old-fashioned. Why am I choosing just a winter whiskey? Because that's what it says. It's not because it says winter. The big reason here is because it says oats in it and it also has chocolate malt. The oats and the chocolate are going to be very interesting and kind of give it this just dusty, warm note that I kind of associate with a cabin in my head. Might just be me, but a lot of my family loves it when I make old fashions with this. So once you pick your spirit, the next thing you have to do is pick your sweetener and pick your bitters. Now again, your bitters and your sweetener is going to impart a lot into it. So if we're doing this, we need to think about, okay, what can I do to get these very nice, classic winter flavors? But say you're doing a tiki style old fashioned, which I've had also from New Riff. Fantastic. You could use something like a pineapple simple syrup, or you could use I'm losing the names, like a tiki bitters that they use, and there's also a different syrup that they use. And then when it comes to the bitters, you want to think about what bitters is actually going to work with this that is not only going to elevate it, but is also going to pair nicely. With a basic old-fashioned, a lot of times we use an orange. So you'll also see people use orange bitters alongside their Angostura bitters. Now for me, when I'm doing this, something that's really fun is actually going to be a nutty flavor. You're thinking about Christmas, you're thinking about Thanksgiving, you're thinking about these warm, toasty feelings. Black walnut. It works very nicely. So I'm going to use a black walnut bitters. However, if you want to use a chocolate bitters, if you want to use specifically an Aztec chocolate bitters, if you want to use Oh goodness, there's so many types of bitters out there. There's an orange bitters, there's obviously your classic Angostura bitters, there's celery bitters, there are so many different types of bitters that you can play with out here. So use that as a tool and kind of play with it a little bit. You may use a little bit more, you might even use 2 different bitters at the same time to help get the flavor that you actually want. Alright, so we have our ingredients now. I should also mention before we go too far that yes, you can do the whole thing where you take a sugar cube and you muddle it and you flame it and you get this toasty caramel flavor, all that fun stuff. You can do that. That's a fun presentation thing. If you ask me, it doesn't do that much for the actual flavor of your cocktail, and the flavor should be the biggest thing, not the presentation. Presentation should come second. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as making your actual cocktail, once you have these ingredients, yes, you can literally just drop some ice into a glass, put these ingredients in there, stir it up, and call it a good day. Which, don't get me wrong, I do this all the time when I'm making my own. But if I'm going to present it to someone, or if I want to make multiple, making it in a mixing glass is going to be super useful. So mixing glass can just be a glass pint glass, that's what I used to use, or you can actually get a mixing glass like this. So I'm a fan of this, it works really nicely, it has a heavier base so I don't knock it over, which I've done numerous times. But what you want to do here is make sure that you don't dilute too much. So you want to have some very large pieces of ice in your mixing glass or just in your glass. You don't want to have just pebbles or things like that or ice that's going to heavily dilute your beverage. Because if you come back to your beverage in, say, 10 minutes and it tastes completely different, that's not going to be a ton of fun and you're probably not going to like it as much. Now I know there's going to be some people down in the comments, the Wisconsin Old Fashioned, it has crushed ice, blah, 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 blah. We're not talking about the Wisconsin Old Fashioned. I love the Wisconsin Old Fashioned. We're not talking about it right now. We are talking about the classic template of the Old Fashioned. That adds in a ton of other things that we're just not going to get into. Let's just move on before I go too deep into that. So you can make your Old Fashioned in something like this, or you can make it right in the glass. But the biggest thing is that you want to make sure you have a large block of ice and don't dilute it. You want to chill it, but you don't want to dilute it too much. Last thing about actually making the cocktail that's going to be important is going to be your garnish. Now, the garnish isn't that important. However, you can do some really cool things with the garnish that will elevate the cocktail. Not only will it look nicer, but you're also going to get some of these scents that are going to change how it actually tastes for you. Say I have an apple Old Fashioned, and I take some apples and I put them on a little skewer and I put it on the top. As you take that sip, the apple is going to hit you in the nose and you're going to get these really fresh flavors that are going to come through, which is going to be fantastic because it's going to give you the essence of apple before you even taste your cocktail. That is going to help elevate it. For something like this, the winter Old Fashioned that I was talking about, I don't really do too much here. I honestly just use a orange peel and I call it a good day because that orange gives you just this bright citrus note, but you also get all of these deep notes when you actually take a sip, so I like how they kind of play off of each other. And that is going to be the final part of this. Play with it. Do some experimentation. Try different whiskeys, try different tequilas, different rums, different gins, whatever it is that you're playing with. Try different spirits, try different styles of that spirit, try different amounts of it, try different bitters, try combinations of bitters, try different syrups, try different, even just your garnish. See if it elevates that cocktail a little bit more for you. You can play with it and do so many different things, and it can be so much fun. No, you don't have to be a bartender, but yeah, having a decent collection of whiskeys definitely helps. But if you do start doing this, you might end up with a very large collection of a lot of simple syrups that you make yourself and also a lot of bitters. Which again, not a bad thing. When it comes down to it, we're all just trying to consume this beverage or another alcoholic beverage to relax, unwind, or enjoy some time with friends. So don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it if you're going to try to make something, and let me know down in the comments what is your favorite style of an Old Fashioned, and also what is the best Old Fashioned you've ever had. Cheers, guys.